Hey, this is Jim McDonald. Welcome to episode 191 of the PowerCast. This episode is Brian Alsruhe. I did not know how to pronounce his name before we had him on the show, and he gave a mnemonic for it, but I think that if you were just to think of it as rhyming with balls blue, you would get it every time. Brian is actually really bright guy, a lot of interesting things to say, and it turns out that he was hanging out on the T-Nation forums way back when he was a kid, back around the time Mark and I met, long time ago. You can actually still find some of those threads that we participated in on that forum, strangely enough. One thing I kind of missed, there's a story at the beginning of this episode about how Mark and I met, and I guess the thing that I didn't say was that I also read his stuff on the T-Nation forum. You can go back there and look at Jackass, and you can see what I was getting at in the course of this story. Also, we talk about the sort of first sober training video from early 2006, and there isn't like a pristine copy of that anywhere, but I will, because it's a music video too, there's a problem. I'm going to put it on my Vimeo, and I will link it in probably the YouTube post, and definitely the post on thepowercast.com, so you can check it out. Next week's episode is Charlie Zamora, one of the original founders of Caffeine and Kilos, who now works for Mark, and he talks about it's really a lot about his personal philosophy, I guess is really what it comes down to. It's an interesting story, and that will be the last episode with Silent Mike, and we have a bunch of episodes in the can coming up, and we're going to make some road trips, shake things up a little bit, so hang in with us. If you like this episode, please like and share. We'll see you next week. Support for this episode of the PowerCast comes from HowMuchYouBench.net, home of Mark Bell's Slingshot. Bench heavy with no pain with Mark Bell's Slingshot. Apparel for strong people at 8manstrong.com and bodybuilding.com. Bodybuilding.com is the world's largest fitness website and supplement store. Bodybuilding.com has free fitness plans for every level. Visit bodybuilding.com today to become your best self. Happy to welcome back Compex USA as a sponsor. Go to CompexUSA.com and check out all the great muscle stim products there. We have all used them. They are the best we've ever used. Use the code PowerCast at checkout to get 28% off of everything but the lowest price model. CompexUSA.com. All right, here we go. Oh, my microphone's fucked up.
Microphone check.
I don't know. It just depends on if you feel cool wearing them.
Yeah, I like it.
I feel very cool.
Very official.
This is
Fat guy singing?
Bell's PowerCast.
The fat guy's talking.
We got two topics
Silent
already,
Mike
right?
and Jim McD.
We got
Here's your
fucking-
host, Mark Bell.
Well, everyone's
Bell.
calling my ass out, and then we also got T-Nation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What happened to T-Nation? No one cares.
I don't know what happened to T-Nation. I
That's
think
Christian Thibodeau.
I think the
Give me your
biggest.
best Christian Thibodeau impersonation.
Oh, man. Today we do the bench press.
It's not bad.
Not bad.
That was
It's not
pretty
bad
good.
at all.
He gave a good Trump earlier, so I figured you had some repertoire.
Repertoire. T-Nation was a great resource back before there was a lot of resources. Now there's a lot more resources, and I think that what people are into now, that people are into seeing other people experiment over years, and then those people becoming the experts. Whereas T-Nation was, this guy has a PhD in this or that, and a lot of times the professional, the fitness professional, was somebody who was either in the community forever, or they were so a doctor of some sort, or a lot of the articles were kind of scientific, and then the internet changed, and when the internet changed, it's hard to keep up. And you have a lot of guys with different types of material, and the shift towards following the natural guys and guys like Omar Isuf and things like that kind of changed everything, because people are all over those forums trying to get information, whether it be about steroids or how to just enhance your performance even naturally. And I think a lot of things have shifted, and things like T-Nation have probably slowed down significantly because of that.
Yeah, people might disagree, but from my point of view, writing has become a way in the door now, where writing used to be where you made it, right? Like on T-Nation, it was like fucking Jim Wendler and like all these studs writing all these articles. But now it's like, oh, I want to get known. Let me try to throw some articles at T-Nation and hope they post it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes when you look at the guy's like history or whatever, he doesn't really have much of a history. It's just kind of their, but which is cool because then now they're getting some information out there. But it's just different than the way it used to be.
Yeah.
But I think in the past too, that was like a meetup place for a lot of us meatheads. That's where we would kind of meet each other. Jim sort of indirectly met me through some of that. Yeah.
That's how we met.
Matchingpowerbears.org. But yeah, Jim, in an indirect way, I'll let him explain it, met me through some of that.
Yeah, back then, well, actually, I didn't know anything about powerlifting at all. I was just lifting weights. And Jesse Burdick reached out to me because he was in the Bay Area, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing a meet in Sacramento on this date. It'd be cool if you came and checked it out."
At the DoubleTree?
Reached out
Yeah,
to you
the
on
DoubleTree.
on T Nation.
On
He reached out to
T-Nation.
you?
He sent me a message. Yeah, it slipped into my DMs, as it were.
Oh.
And
Was that
anyway,
the meet that Charles Bailey did, or was that another meet that was at the DoubleTree Hotel?
it was. It wasn't at the DoubleTree. It was at. Man, I don't even remember what that one's called anymore. It's not, the hotel's not even there anymore.
Okay.
It was just like fronting Business 80 off of Arden.
Was it? What's the one that was behind Future Ford? They hold a bunch of weird things. And then there's the one by Arden Mall.
Yeah,
Or it used to be.
Used to be. Anyway, though, so I was able to go for like one day, and just watching people lift, I was totally hooked. And I had a camera. I did some stuff on my own. Whatever.
2003, 4.
2004. That would be like January 2004.
Me and Alan were freshmen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we just got talking. Alan kind of said, "I wonder who the first guy was to bring a camera in the gym." And I said, "I think it was Jim."
It might have been.
Let's record this workout.
Just take it, man.
It like literally like on a consistent basis. I kind of do think it was him,
Yeah, it
especially
probably was.
when it comes to powerlifting.
Yeah, someone might have randomly done it, but
Yeah.
cameras were bigger and bulkier. No one would think of that, right? Like it's a big old fucking VCR thing. Where you fucking
Just
I-
look
yeah.
stupid.
Yeah.
Shoulder it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
you were like
still,
self-conscious.
even still, I get a little self-conscious, like vlogging. In
I
public
think you
and
would,
stuff.
really feel like an asshole doing a selfie with a Polaroid back in the day, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, things have changed quite a bit. But I do think that Jim was one of the first. Go ahead with your story of how you ran into me and why we're talking about this.
Oh yeah, so he eventually talked me into joining Diablo Barbell in the Bay Area and driving like an hour 15 one way 3 times a week
Jesus.
to lift there. And I'd been there over a year when, actually early on, he said, "Hey, you're not coming in 4 days a week, and the West Side is 4 days a week, so you should do your dynamic bench with Mark Bell. He's jackass on Elite FTS." And I read his stuff, and I was like, "This guy's such a tool. There's just no way I can hang with this guy. I would want to kill him by the time."
So what's changed?
Nothing, not a damn thing. So, after a year or so, I was off on vacation. He came in and started working out on Saturdays at that gym, and I finally met him. And Jesse had totally kicked his ass, actually.
A lot of times,
on squats
Killed me,
that particular day. He's like, I remember him sitting. There was a couch in that office. He sat on that couch and just like.
died.
And anyway, he asked me for my phone number, which is something he does with guys a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he started texting me not very long after that, saying, "Hey, this drive thing is fucking killing me. How about I look around for some place that even if it's even if it's just a key lock gym or whatever, to train at in Sacramento or Davis or whatever."
Yeah.
And I said, "I'm down. We'll figure it out." And then he found a place that was building out a commercial gym, and smooth talked them into buying powerlifting equipment and building a wall, and we moved in there.
Yeah, and then we're kind of like off to the races. How did we get to this topic, Brian?
He wrote for T Nation.
You wrote for T Nation.
I wrote for T Nation
Yeah.
very recently.
Yeah, cool.
Like probably within last year. But
Yeah.
I started out back in the day on the forums of T Nation trying to I started out on forums, and that's actually how I started YouTube. I've been on YouTube for a substantial amount of time, but I was just like posting my regular lifts.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Yeah.
No one cares about that.
Yeah.
It wasn't until about a year ago when I actually turned the camera on myself and started talking that people actually pay attention. But I actually started posting the pictures because I had my log up, and no one believed that I could lift what I could lift. So I was like, and I don't use the fake weights I use now, obviously.
Right.
So
You
it
can
was
thank
a way.
Mark for sending those over.
Yeah.
So I have to ask the question: how fucking old are you? You were-
I am 36 right now.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes
And you're
sense.
known for having the biggest biceps in strongman?
Alan,
Yep.
That's what Alan said.
Pretty damn big.
beard and biceps.
Beard and biceps strongman.
Yeah, we met, like you said earlier, on Match.com.
Meathead match.
And I saw his biceps, and I knew we were compatible.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, if you guys said you met on the internet 10 years ago the way Jim and I did,
Oh, yeah.
then we would be suspicious of you two as you guys are suspicious of us right now. You're like, oh, wow. I didn't-
Suspicious or envious?
Yeah, both. Yeah. I didn't know they met that way. Did you hear that? Hey, Alan, did you hear that story they told? It's interesting, huh?
It's a thin line between suspicion and envy.
That's
That's
very,
right.
very true.
The information that was being put out back then, even though people were kind of sharing it, it seemed like more of like a secret. And then it seemed like you found a gem when you went on a thread and found somebody talking that was somebody that was doing it. So like you had these experts, these high-level people writing these articles. And then when you kind of sift through the thread, you would find somebody that you can identify with better, which is what's
Yeah.
happening on YouTube now.
I think that was
100%.
popular on bodybuilding.com forums
Yeah.
too. Like just
Yep.
in different camps. Like when I started lifting, I didn't know what I was doing, and bodybuilding.com was the first thing that pops up on Google, right? I mean, you guys already kind of knew, like, oh, I power lift or I lift
Yeah.
weights for strength. I didn't know I was 18, so you just Google like fucking get jacked,
Yeah.
and bodybuilding.com pops up, and those forums where I think were similar, where you're scrolling through and all these idiots are just putting out shit, and then you're like, Dr. Lane Norton. And you're like, maybe I'll listen to this guy. His name's fucking Doctor, and then he's, but then he has an
Yeah.
article on the website and he's answering in the forums, and I think it's probably similar on T Nation. You're like, oh shit, like I'm just gonna read everything this motherfucker puts out and try to do that.
Yeah,
Back
you
then
might
it
be
was-
like 16 and you're reading something from someone who's 19. So you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I can kind of relate to that
Yeah.
guy. And the
Yeah.
guy deadlifts 600 pounds. You're like, fuck, I deadlift 400
Yeah.
or 500.
That's how I found.
I could be there someday,
Yeah.
Ben Rice, who's another guy who's been on
Yeah,
YouTube for a
Ben
long,
Rice.
long time.
Super
So
That
strong,
bastard's
but
so strong.
yeah, I'm like 20 years old and he's maybe 21 or 19. I don't know. We're close in age, and he's pulling like 700 pounds. I'm like, fuck, I need to follow this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a strong dude.
Yeah,
And back in the day, it was like John Berardi, Dr. John Berardi,
Yeah,
and
man.
not Lane Norton.
Yeah,
Lane
yeah.
Norton is sort
Yeah.
of the
Other side.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Diablo Barbell had a thread too, and a lot of shit got kicked
Oh
around
yeah,
on there
it
all
was
the
pretty-
time.
It could be pretty
A
bad.
lot of trash talking. A lot worse than what happens today. It
Yeah.
was,
Worse than YouTube trolls?
Yeah, yeah. That's hard. It's very cutthroat.
It was pretty bad. Yeah.
Just because the people knew each other, so it's
Yes.
more personal.
yeah.
Yeah, because people could bash you on a YouTube video, but they don't really know your mom and your sister. They can't really insult you. But if I know your mom and sister, I can really insult you.
That's very true.
There were kind of three big ones at that time because it was T Nation, it was bodybuilding.com, and then Wanna Be Big, which doesn't exist anymore.
What about Elite? When did that start to go?
In that same time period, 97, 98?
Deep Squatter too. Remember
Deep Squatter, yeah.
Deep Squatter was a big form of
Never heard of that.
information. That's the first time I saw like Dave Tate pop up.
Oh, that's cool.
And he had training cycles on there with like bands and chains, and I just remember being obsessed with it. I'm like, I gotta figure out bands and chains.
Was he at Westside at the time? Tate?
No, he was out here. His name was Jason Burnell. He ran that site.
Oh, Jason Burnell.
Yeah, but
ran
you
the
said he
site.
found Tate.
Yeah. Dave Tate. He was at
Yeah.
Westside Barbell, at
And
the
he was just
time,
putting out
He didn't
information
have
elsewhere.
Elite or anything like
Yeah.
that. He didn't have the company.
Because I read a little bit on Elite as well, but that was probably more like 2010.
Yeah.
and
maybe.
then I think that the actual
That website exploded for
the
a long time.
first big like powerlifting video site was run by Hayward Blake, and I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of it now. But it cost him a fortune because he was actually physically hosting the videos himself
Yeah.
on a hosting account.
And that's where like powerlifting and power bears probably all came around.
Yeah, probably
Like
so.
because no one else gave a fuck what you were squatting in a suit when you're
Yeah.
fat and hairy.
Yeah.
But those were all like meat videos.
Yeah.
They weren't.
Guys,
Training
guys
videos.
can jerk off to anything, right?
That's right. I was on, and at that time I was on Putfile because YouTube didn't exist yet. So that's where I was cranking out some videos. Jim was already cranking out some videos. Where'd you have stuff up?
I had stuff up because I had a business website at the time too, so I would sometimes just upload
Throw it on the
stuff
back
there.
end of that.
And then what happened was that the first like big video that we did ended up being a music video, and it was just something that basically the software cut together out of clips to the beats of the music, and I put it up on my website, and then people downloaded
Oh, that
it.
highlight reel you made.
Yeah,
Is that
and
still
it's-
there?
It's
Or somewhere?
Somewhere.
It got like
yeah.
gotta
taken
watch it.
down. Didn't have. It
It's
was
there
like our
somewhere.
first video that like
Well, it's
went
had an
viral.
Eminem song, so
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. That sounds sick.
This video was fucking awesome.
Yeah,
it was
let's
really
watch
good.
that.
I gotta see if I can find it. But what happened was
From
that
the vault.
somebody ripped it, and it did like 150,000 downloads like that.
Which at the time,
when YouTube
videos
first
were
started.
a few hundred.
Yeah, YouTube was
Yeah.
nothing. I mean, even now, like 50 million sounds like a lot, but that's the biggest on YouTube. Like that's the roof.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Absolutely.
Let's see if
I want to.
Alan, do you have a YouTube channel?
No. Don't plan on it either.
Alan, when
Looks
did you
like a lot of
start?
work.
When did you start your channel?
Probably about 3 years ago.
And how did this little bromance develop? Did it develop through the internet?
Yeah, it did. I did a Q&A, and Brian asked a question. He said something about how do I get my bench up? And I was like, well, listen up.
Young gun.
He asked about how to get YouTube subscribers, and I answered his question.
I'll show you how to get YouTube subscribers.
Take
Big
your
guy.
shirt off.
The dark side of YouTube. And so I went from there. And then I talked to him. I went and looked at his channel, and I was like, dang, this guy's actually got a lot of really good information. He knows what he's talking
He's
about.
fucking jacked.
Strong as hell, yeah. So then I asked him, I said, hey, you want to make a video? And I'll put it on my channel.
Right.
And he did, and then that's that.
But it started out, he was actually I had asked a question about YouTube subscribers and how to build like your base and stuff like that. And he actually responded with, oh man, I saw that video that made me laugh where you almost killed yourself 315.
Mistaking
and I'm like,
him for a different guy.
yeah. I was like,
I had watched someone's YouTube video.
Somebody named Brian that almost killed themselves.
I watched someone's YouTube video of someone I didn't know, and then for whatever reason I confused the names, and I saw that I was like, oh, I just watched his video. Totally confused him. But then I went and actually looked at your channel, and I was like, that's not the guy.
yeah.
So,
But it was cool, man. And then that kind of gave me a little bit of push. And then we had talked, we like stayed in touch, like we were internet friends. And then he was like, hey man, if you ever want to come out to Sacramento, like come up, we'll do some collaboration stuff. So I took him up on the offer, and here we are. He introduced me to you guys, and
How long you been doing YouTube yourself? You said for a long time, but how long have you been like trying to do YouTube?
probably about a year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because it's a little different than uploading a file there, where tons of people do that. Like, oh, here's my 2-year-old's
Yeah.
first steps or whatever the fuck.
Right,
And then
actually
actually like
trying
trying
to
to help people, trying to actually put out
consistent.
content that's good and consistent.
Yeah, my first video is my daughter or my son meeting my daughter.
Yeah.
That's my
Is
first
it?
YouTube video,
Yeah.
like in 2000.
Just because you need somewhere to put files back in the day, and
Right.
that's what
Yeah.
YouTube was.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's still what I do.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
delete everything afterwards. I don't have that kind of storage space.
Yeah.
How long you been lifting weights, and where'd you start that?
Like most people, I started probably when I was like 13 with, like the cement weight set that you buy at Sears or whatever.
Yeah.
And pretty much I had a bench, and it had like a little leg extension on it. You guys have all, everyone knows exactly what I'm talking
Supersetting.
about. Yeah, and that's
Quads
like,
and pecs.
That's what I did all the time. And then when I got in high school, I had a strength coach there, and by strength coach I mean he was the football coach who told you to lift
Gotcha,
weights
yeah.
you
To
know?
max out.
Yeah,
We're
and
a little heavy today, boys.
Hey, what are we doing today,
Yeah,
coach?
he's in his shorts, got his clipboard, whistle. We all been there.
but he did. That's actually exactly.
Yeah, that
Collared, polo.
those coaching shorts that you can't
bike-
find. Yeah, I
they're
don't
like
even
bike-
know where to get them.
Yeah.
Where do you buy those from? Go to a special Coach store.
You want YouTube subscribers?
Yeah, those are amazing. They're like gray or maroon, right? It's like
got
a
a
couple
stripe.
different colors.
But he actually would make us. He said you could lift anything you wanted as long as you squatted, benched, or power cleaned first, right? So you had to get those lifts out of the way, and then
Yeah.
you could do all the biceps that you wanted.
And you can be a sissy.
Yeah, absolutely, right? So that was really a lot of the base that got built was because of that. And then as I kind of got out of lifting during college because I was involved in like a lot of like MMA, jiu-jitsu kind of stuff, and had to stay around the 185-pound class. And as you got older, I couldn't really stay in
Did you
there.
compete?
Yeah, that
in-
ship has sailed.
Yeah,
Did you compete in some of that too?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I have a decent amount of old competition. We were talking about the other day. We were doing a Q&A the other day, and someone asked, "Can we see your MMA videos?" I was like, "Do you have a VCR?" Because I'm 36 years old.
Yeah.
You should try to transfer that somehow. You got to
Yeah.
be able to, right?
Yeah, I think my parents probably have them. I don't know.
That'd be sick.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and then it wasn't until probably about 2.5 years ago that I got involved in strongman. So I had never. I grew up in the same high school with Mike Jenkins, right? And Mike and I lived together.
R.I.P.
We're
Mike
friends.
Jenkins.
Yeah, man. But we were like good friends, trained together. We were both personal trainers.
About
at
the
the
same
gym.
age.
Yeah,
Ish.
he's about 2 years younger than me,
Yeah.
or was. But Mike was coming into the gym, and he had just started getting strongman equipment and bringing it in the gym, and was like, man, you got to do the strongman. You'll do great. And I'm like, I don't want to be like a big fat guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I'm into this fighting thing. I'm going to do this. He's like, there's weight classes, man.
Yeah,
And I
what was
like,
Mike, 6'6"?
Yeah, like, I'd say like
and so
6'6",
he's
6'7".
looking at you like, yeah, come do what I do. Yeah, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, I'm like, but so I never did it, but I always told him like, yeah, man, I'm going to, And then Mike ended up leaving and going up to PA, where he opened his own gym and was doing his own thing and was involved in World Strongman and stuff like that, and was cool. Like, we still stayed in contact and stuff. And then on Thanksgiving morning, I guess it was like 3 years ago now, got the text that Mike had died and was shocked, number one. And then so everyone got together for his funeral, and we were all there, and it was crazy because all the strongmen from like around the world like flew in, which is a testament to who Mike was, And
Because a lot of those guys don't like each other.
no,
Yeah.
no, absolutely. So everyone flew in, and it was a really moving moment. And I remember sitting there looking at like everybody looking around, and a lot of the strongman guys had like an intensity. Like, everyone was super nice, but there was definitely like an intensity. And I was like, I can't really get punched in the head too much anymore. Dumb enough already. So I told Mike I'd do this, and I decided right then, I was like, I'm going to do my first strongman. So I signed up, and I guess it was probably like 2 months later. I still had not touched a strongman implement in my life. And I went up to Mike's old gym where Carrie Shaw, where Carrie was still running the gym. And literally, she showed me how to like pick up Atlas stones, how to like
That's
carry
awesome.
farmer's handles. And then the next week, I went and competed and won my first strongman.
Yeah.
Then that qualified me for nationals because of the contest, and went to nationals as my second competition and thought I was gonna crush it. I was crushing
second
everything,
competition.
and I was wrong. I was real wrong.
Yeah.
So, and then it's just going from there,
With Mike Jenkins, it was just, really hit me sideways. I never knew Mike that well. I talked to him many times. I texted him a bunch of times. But it wasn't like we were best friends or anything. But, I did associate with him. We did see each other at the different trade shows and stuff like that. We took tour of Rogue Fitness together and stuff. And, I value my time that I did have with him. But what's crazy is, I was interviewing him back and forth. And with the intentions of putting him on the cover of Power Magazine. And I didn't tell him kind of the whole time. I'm just trying to, like, interview him, kind of have it be like a surprise,
Sure.
And then I get the phone call from his wife that he, passed away in the middle of the night. It was just, like, fucking unbelievable. Yeah. And then it was kind of a matter of, like, okay, well, I didn't tell him this, but he's on the cover. And then that made her, like, even cry even more. And I was like, well, now it could be a way, a memorial almost in a way to, to honor him, because we already completed a lot of the interview stuff. It was just crazy. You're never ready for shit like that.
No,
you're never. Life does not prepare you.
Was
for
he about 30
things like
years
that.
old at the time?
2, I think.
Yeah, and like all that.
Totally blindsided.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty nuts. When people pass away at like 60, you're like, wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
young.
But
Let alone.
there's a lot of guys. Like, I don't know if you guys know who Zydrunas Savickas is in the strongman world. He's
Absolutely, 100%.
Never heard of
You
him.
know who he is,
right.
yeah.
So sorry, I don't know.
Big Z.
But you look at how much weight that guy dropped recently, and as wrong as it is to say, like, big dogs die early. Like, a Rottweiler dies
Yeah, before a poodle.
100% every single time.
Muscle or fat. We talk about that a lot too, because like both require blood and oxygen. Your body doesn't know. Like,
It's hard to walk around
yeah.
at 350,
And
400
just,
pounds, no matter what it's.
And just even
it
to
is.
take it a step further, I don't like to use the war reference, but just in general terms, like, the more you go to battle,
Yep.
the more likely you are to have a problem, right? So it doesn't matter what stress you're putting on your body, whether it's lifting, powerlifting, or whether it's strongman, we all get way carried away with it.
When it
and,
goes-
and sometimes it can become a negative.
Yeah, it goes way deeper too, because we're all on caffeine and we're all stressed from work and kids, and then sometimes
Eating a bunch of
performance-enhancing drugs involved. Yeah, there's a ridiculous amount of food, and who knows what the fuck we're eating, let alone especially at the top level. But even what we do, there's a lot of traveling. Like, there's just a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And you look at the fact that if you weighed 400 pounds and you sat around the couch all day, your heart rate might go up to whatever. I don't know.
But
if,
60.
if you're like doing sprints with a sandbag that weighs 300 pounds, and you run about. That's
breathing
that's a
squats
lot.
and so on.
Yeah, we talk about it all. It's like we all got in this for health and fitness, and like the less fit and less healthy we get as we, but that's just extremes of everything. That's the extremes
100%.
in politics and religion. The extremes are never always the best answer.
Have you noticed any loss in your agility and your athleticism? You said you did some MMA and jiu-jitsu and stuff. Have you, since doing all the strongman stuff, have you kind of tightened up quite a bit?
We have a judo champion here. We could see it firsthand, maybe.
Yeah,
Smokey? Yeah, practice on
Smokey, here's our judo champion.
Undefeated.
He is.
Undefeated. I swear to
Moses.
God.
He's too beautiful to hang out.
Hey, we need a battle. We got jiu-jitsu and judo. This is like the pride days.
I'm not a striking guy.
That's why it's pride. It's MMA. It's fucking all
I would
good.
agree with that.
No
Learn to fight on the
rules.
streets.
Yeah, I don't do that. I do it in confined, controlled, very novice environment.
We could do a confined.
Prism rules.
Oh, of course.
Okay, then I'm in. Let me tell you guys a story about prison rules.
Yes.
So
Push-ups or
Story
reps in the
already.
shower?
No, so yesterday,
Failure first.
yesterday, Alan and I were doing a lot of taping for each other's channels, and Alan's like, "Hey,
Pornhub.com.
channels," and Alan was like, "Hey, let me. I've got an idea. Why don't we eat a burrito as fast as possible?" And you guys can see this. We put this out this morning.
Sounds so gross.
But you eat a burrito as fast as possible, and it was a delicious
Yeah,
burrito.
Chando's Tacos on Arden.
Oh,
yeah.
Check it out, dude. It's really
Yeah,
good.
solid.
And then
Very
we had to sprint out one door of his gym all the way around the building.
Pouring down rain.
You guys know what yesterday was like. Got back in the building. Then whoever got inside first had to flip a tire and then lift a stone over a bar. And whoever got finished first was
The champion.
The champion was the
Burrito
champion,
champ.
world champion of the universe. And so we're eating the burritos, right? And we're taking care of the foil as we're going. And then suddenly we're like both on our last bite of burrito, and Alan's like, "What?" And I'm being stupid. I'm like,
he fell for the what is
like,
that?
what is he looking at? And then suddenly a piece of foil hits me in the face, and I look, and Alan's gone. I'm like, yo.
Tricksters.
So
Untamed rules.
I will tell you, flipping a tire and lifting an Atlas stone is much different with a mouthful burrito and burrito juice all over your hands.
I do
It was
think maybe the
challenging.
name of this podcast should be called World Champion of the Universe.
World champion, you like that?
Yeah, I do.
One of my fight coaches
We'll
used to
make
say
a
that. He was like, "You're going to be world champion of the universe," and I was like, "Yeah."
Past
And it's
Earth.
like, it was a joke, man. It was
Yeah,
a
doesn't make
joke.
any
Like,
sense.
stop being stupid.
He got you all hyped up. You're like, fuck yeah,
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'll knock someone out right here.
Let's do that.
When the Cincinnati Reds won the World Series, one of those Big Red Machine years, Rob Dibble said,
Yep.
"We're the world champions of the world."
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, when you check out like your Instagram, you're still able to move around really well. I see you doing like fucking like muscle ups and like
Spider
even
monkey.
the
Yeah.
other day you warmed up with that. Like you just can't. How much do you weigh?
Right now, probably about 240.
Yeah, that's a lot of weight to be throwing around on something like a muscle up. So how do you keep some of your athleticism? Is that a goal of yours?
I never stopped moving.
Gotcha.
So you know how like a lot of people are like, how do you get agility back? And I'm like, you don't lose
Never
agility.
stop it.
How do you not weigh 400 pounds? Like, don't get to 400 pounds.
Like if Mike never stopped his suicides, he'd still have some good moves on the
Yeah,
court.
but now I'll rip an ACL.
but
That was
but
brutal, by the way.
Huh.
Rudy Gay last night.
I didn't even watch it. Yeah.
And
I
he
hate
actually-
watching all of that.
Yeah, it was actually his Achilles that ruptured last
Oh.
night
that's not
on the
cool.
court.
That
That's
worries
a
me
year
too,
minimum.
because that always happens like in your late 30s.
Yeah.
And they just had like my alumni game. Like, yeah, come play, Mike. Like, fuck you, dude. My Achilles is gonna explode.
I'm having an anxiety attack right now.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad.
You don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I hate it all.
But I honestly, a lot of times what I do now is for strongman you need a decent amount of stamina. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you're going as many reps as possible in 60 seconds with say like 600 pounds, that gets your heart going, or like a medley where you're running around. And so a lot of it is for the strongman stuff, and a lot of it is to prove to people that just because you're big, that doesn't give you an excuse to not
Yeah.
do stuff. Because
Yeah.
so many times, like guys are like, a sit up, that's CrossFit, that's whatever, and I'm
Yeah.
like, or not. Like having a strong core might help your squat, might help your deadlift.
Well, just moving that range of motion is healthy for you.
And
Right?
I'm trying not to die.
Yeah, trying to move in as many different ranges of motion as possible. I mean, even something like a wood chop with a cable or something. It
Yeah.
might look funky
Yeah.
to your friends because you're not picking up a stone or throwing a log over your
Right.
head, but you're moving in a direction that maybe you normally wouldn't otherwise move in.
And a lot of guys who are like the top in our sport train like that. A lot. It's like the lower level people who want to be like elitist about their thing and like, I don't do conditioning. Why would I condition? I'm a strongman. That's why I got in strongman.
Yeah, it became cool.
I'm like, well, then you're never going to be a top strongman. You're going to be a, you know.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong too. Though the more advanced you get into the strongman world, the more complex the movements get. Where like they're doing like weight over bar at the higher level. Where you go to local meet, you may not do that. But weight over bar, doing a med ball toss or doing a fucking wood chop is like instrumental. You're gonna rip a fucking oblique trying to throw 30 pounds over a 17-foot wire.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think everyone just gets more surgical. It's very similar to powerlifting. Like you look at someone who's squatting like 900 or 1,000 pounds. Like if they're out of the groove by half an inch, they don't get it.
Yeah.
Like it will not go. Like it will. You can't good morning.
You can't readjust.
A grand.
You can't
you
be
know?
like, oh, I forgot to arch.
Right.
And then arch. And then
So it's just surgical, and that's the top guys. The difference between like myself and a top guy is that they don't make the mistakes I do, because literally at nationals, the difference between coming in like first place and last place is like a couple seconds.
What was your placing at your first nationals, and how many nationals have you done?
I've done 3 nationals now. My first one, I honestly can't remember because it was low.
How many guys show up?
To nationals is like 200, but in your
shit.
weight class,
Yeah.
it's probably like my weight class is pretty. It's a lot of people because if guys do
normal
strongman,
people.
Yeah, it's like there's only so many guys who are like 6'8", and there's just only so many guys who do strongman that are like 175.
You probably compete in the hardest. The 231s, the 105 kilo, is probably the hardest division to compete in because they're all strong as hell and they're super fucking fast.
Yeah.
So
I have a friend who was not doing well in the 231 class, and so he decided to kick up to heavyweight by like he weighed in at like 240. You know what I mean, instead of 231, and finished like top 10 in the nation at heavyweight. But at 231, he wouldn't have.
Yeah, that's like powerlifting.
know?
Like for a while at 198, it was like going nuts, and I was like, "Fuck it, dude, I'm going 231." I'm like creep in there, and then now Bryce Lewis and other people are going nuts too. So it's
yeah,
impossible
there's a
either
couple
place.
weight classes you might be able to sneak in a good punch here or there, but for the most part, you're screwed.
What's after nationals? So say you do win it, or when you win it, world champion of the universe. Does they have a
Arnold.
world's strongest man for 231s?
Pro card, lightweight pro, or you wanted to go to Arnold. That's what you were shooting for.
If you finish in like top 10, essentially, like it's a percentage of the class, but typically it falls to about top 10. They go to the Arnold Classic and compete as an amateur. The top guy who wins nationals gets his pro card. So they only give out a couple of pro cards a year to the guy who like wins the Arnold, the guy who wins nationals, and certain Platinum Plus, which is like a higher level competition than like a low competition. So they probably hand out, and I'm just throwing these numbers out, so don't. Somebody's going to get
Estimate,
really
of
angry
course.
about this. But I'd say they probably throw out like 4 or 5 pro cards a year. Would you say that's probably?
Probably more than that.
Think so?
Because of the Platinum Plus. At the national level, yeah.
But Platinum, they only give out like 1 or 2.
I don't know how many there are.
231s. I don't either.
Whatever,
I
under
don't
10
know.
pro cards a year.
The San Jose,
Definitely under
San
10.
Jose Fit Expo is a Platinum Plus. LA Fit Expo is a Platinum Plus.
Okay.
I don't know if they have any other.
7, 8,
expos
whatever.
past
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
So
Very few. Yeah.
yeah.
And you can't compete. I mean, it's kind of like powerlifting where you can't compete every week.
Right.
So like it's not like you could go and do all 7 in a year. You'll die.
Right.
That'd be tough to train.
Yeah.
I that's part of the problem with competing is guys are like, why don't you compete more? I'm like, because competing screws up my normal training.
Yeah.
Because you had to like get whatever events are coming up. It's not like powerlifting where you have like a squat, a bench, a deadlift.
Yeah. But even still in powerlifting, we mentioned the same things. Like you compete too often, you're taken away from your training, and like the old adage that's now maybe even looked down upon or whatever. But like you got to build your strength, not test your strength, right? Like that's so
100%.
cliche, but it's so true. And if you're peaking for a meet or doing singles, you're probably not building it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I got my pro card for strongman in the mail a couple days ago. I haven't opened up the envelope yet, but just kind of
175
sitting
class.
there on my
The
mantle.
AARP division.
There is a master's class. There is a master's class, which I can compete in a couple years.
Yeah, there
which
you
is-
go. So you said that you got into some MMA, and you said that you had an event that kind of sprung you into doing strongman.
Yep.
What sprung you into doing MMA? Because it's a crazy fucking sport.
So I grew up doing martial arts, right? Just like a lot of kids who did
Karate?
Yes, karate, right?
I love it.
And however, our karate teacher was one of the teachers who, like, you know how like you'll see kids like point spar and they're like it's tag.
Yeah.
He would let us essentially go. You know what I mean?
A lot rougher.
Yeah, and we used to have like in my basement because at that time when I was growing up, which probably seems ancient to this part of the table, but there was like blood sport, kickboxer, like
yeah.
It was like amazing martial arts movies, and everyone who was cool, from Highlander to anyone who was cool in that time, was like a black belt.
Is
You know
that
what I
Van
mean?
Damme or something?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah, see, I don't even know if I've seen a single Van Damme
Yeah.
movie.
So anyway, guys,
Yeah, I don't know. I know who he is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bloodsport is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think
Like,
that's Van
everyone-
Damme.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Everyone should watch Bloodsport.
Yeah.
I'll watch
I agree.
Bloodsport. I
It's-
just watched
both-
Braveheart.
It's both good and like terrible at the same time, but it's pretty amazing.
yeah,
I think it's one of Bart's favorite movies. I might be wrong.
Yeah, it's
it's up there for me.
a slobber knocker.
Whether it's just nostalgic or not.
Yeah.
Like if it's on, like if I'm flipping through channels, it's on. I'm done.
Yeah,
The next
stick to
hour, I'm there.
So it's just kind of a natural progression. Because
Yeah.
you're doing martial arts.
So the stand up, like I said, it was like more real stand up than it was karate stand up. Like kids would get knocked out. I'm not.
That's
kidding at all.
awesome.
My teeth
School
are
of
chipped
Hard Knocks.
here.
You want to build your YouTube? I got some content for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Kids knocking the shit out of each other.
I just need to change my habits. But I still have chipped teeth now because I was probably 12, 13.
Yeah.
And a kid kicked me in the head, and I remember my teeth. We didn't wear mouthpiece or anything because that wasn't cool.
Stuff a sock in your mouth.
Yeah. So he kicked
You don't
me.
have a mouthpiece in the streets, bro.
I remember
No weight
spitting,
classes in the jungle.
but I spit a piece of tooth out, and I was like too embarrassed that I got kicked in the head that hard. Like I was completely rocked. Like to standards today,
Concussion,
they'd be
yeah.
like, "Sit down, young man. It's going to be a couple weeks before you do anything." And but I was so embarrassed that I got kicked that hard and got caught in front of everybody. Like I spit the piece of tooth out and then like bowed out, and you know what I mean. So it was just a natural progression. So the stand-up was pretty serious, and then we started learning Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because in '93, like UFC came around, and you started seeing like Royce Gracie just destroying all these guys. And before that, everyone was wondering like, your kung fu is no good here. Kind of like what would happen if like a kung fu dude fought a karate dude,
Yeah,
fought
yeah.
a judo, you know?
It
And
is
people
so-
used to talk that way all the time. Like, hey, what would
100%.
happen if Tyson fought this guy and this
Well,
happened
all
with
that
this
is so
wrestler?
cool. Like going back to YouTube, like what is it? Strength Wars. They take a bodybuilder,
Yeah.
a strongman,
Yeah.
a powerlifter.
That's some cool stuff,
And
yeah.
they have them squat off. Like that's fucking cool.
You don't know what you've done. Every single YouTube video that I've ever put up,
Yeah.
that since I've been talking, somebody's like, "You gotta do strength wars. You gotta do strength
Yeah.
wars." Or people be like, "You need to get on with Mark Bell. You need
Yeah.
to get on with this guy."
Yeah, that's
and
how
I'm
it
like,
goes.
"I don't think you understand how this works. Like, you don't tell anybody what you want to do. Like, you get invited.
You need
Like,
to get
that's-
on TV.
yeah.
Yeah, I wish I was on
Yeah.
fucking TV.
Where do I sign up for strength?
You really need to fly all around the world doing seminars." I'm like,
Yeah.
You
You
come
get
to
that.
Detroit.
"Who's
Yeah.
paying for it?" You know,
Yeah.
The second most popular comment on YouTube videos is that you look like John Cena.
100%, all the time. I'm telling you, if
His
I could
voice
just,
isn't that far off either.
but if I could just
Not
get
terrible,
the
yeah.
WWE to bring me in as the like
Shorter.
long lost brother.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty athletic
John
guy.
Cena that fell asleep in a tanning bed.
That's the whole.
You
This,
said,
I'm just red. I'm a red individual because I'm so pale.
You said Cena's brother's pretty jacked too, yes, Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're up there, right? Massachusetts.
Yeah,
That's
Matt
where they're
Cena's
from?
jacked.
But yeah, man, make that. I bet WWE pays better than YouTube. It
probably.
might be iffy. I guess it depends who you are on
Kind
YouTube.
of depends, yeah.
And it depends who you're on the WWE.
Depends on how you add up those hours. You know,
Yeah,
like
probably
how many
hurts a
hours
lot
does
more.
it take you to edit a video, and you get paid what, $1 per every 1,000 or something like that,
Yeah.
approximately per every view.
$250, $3,
And,
whatever,
yeah,
depending
and then
upon
the,
what your
uh,
level.
You guys have already talked about more money than I made on YouTube this year. $1, 1,000. I don't.
And then a
not that
wrestler
far
gets
off.
paid zero for quite some time. And
100%.
has
But I
to
think
live
that's
at
still
their
with
car.
everybody, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone starts out
Yeah.
sweeping the floor for free before
Shoveling
they move
shit
up
for
to
a little while.
100%. That's if it was easy, the way that everyone wants it to be,
Yeah.
like where you're like you're an overnight success. It only took you 15 years. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people kind of have a perception of what Like you pop on the scene, and just because somebody found out about you, that's popping on the scene. But
Right.
you've been here for,
Well, there's still so many people that don't know about, some or all of us. There's still so many people. So, if one of us is to get on TV or do something really big, people go, where the fuck did he come from? But really, the subculture, the diehards know, like, oh shit, he's been grinding it out for the
it's
last
been a
10
long
years.
time.
That's where he's been.
Dude, that we were talking about it in the parking lot, but like the sheer fact that you're an individual who isn't afraid of someone taking limelight, and you're just like, there's enough room for everybody.
Yeah.
I'd rather see more people succeed, and if
Yeah,
the
just
people
like
around us
I mean,
succeed.
I'm just like anybody else. I get jealous of people and stuff like that all the
I'm
time.
sorry.
But
100% of his lifting competitively was driven by that. I think. I don't know. That's my observation.
No, that's not 100% true. No, I mean, I'm very competitive, So if I see someone doing something, I want to do it too.
Yeah.
At the same time, I'm not such an asshole that I can't clap for them or I can't give them a pat on the back or say that was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then kind of like what I mentioned out there is like, we have built a great platform with the PowerCast, and we've built a great platform with some of the other stuff we're doing. Why not just take some of that light, grab a big old mirror, and just shine it on some other people that other people don't know about? That they say the all high tide raises all ships type of deal, and that's
Followers don't work.
trying to be positive and trying just to keep cruising along.
Followers don't work like a jug of water. So if I have a cup full and I go like this, I'm not losing my followers, giving them
Right.
to Alan.
Right.
It's more just like replicating,
Yeah.
So it's not
Absolutely.
taken away from anything else.
Right.
Well, and there's times in my life where I've given people opportunities, and I have kind of lost out on certain things, but those are probably things that I kind of squandered anyway, or didn't execute well enough anyway. So me passing it along still didn't hurt me, and still advances the relationship you have with that person. Still makes you feel good. You know what I mean? So my brother does that all the time. He's probably the worst ever at it. He'll give people opportunities before his foot's in the door. And you're like, man, maybe you should have got in a little deeper before you did that. But he doesn't think that way. He's like, oh, fuck, I can help this guy out.
Right.
What happened with the MMA career? Did you ever try to take that more professionally? Are you a big fan of the UFC and stuff like that?
I'm not really a big fan of anything. Like I watch.
I hate life.
I won't. No, I mean like sports wise.
Yeah.
Like people are like, who's your favorite strongman? I'm like, Brian Shaw, I guess, because I've met Brian Shaw. I couldn't name like 10 guys in the sport.
Right.
And it's not that I don't care. It's that honestly, at this point in my life, I'm just so busy with, like, I own my own gym, trying to get the YouTube thing going, trying to get a couple things going, and like on my YouTube channel, kind of like what you said, I'm not big enough to give people exposure too much right now, but I will if somebody reaches out to me, I reach back. Like I try to answer as many comments and around. But I try. But I do try to like reach out and just be cool to the people, because I always appreciate when someone's cool to me. But that takes up a lot of time.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, the reason why I stopped the MMA stuff, I still do jiu-jitsu, but I have a brain tumor, so I shouldn't be getting punched in the head too much. Not that anyone should get punched in the head. No one should get punched in the head. It's like a credit card. Like, you don't need to pay now, but you're going to pay. You know what I mean?
Hang on. I thought the revelation of this podcast was going to be you pronouncing your name for us, because we've made it 40 minutes and you've not said
hit
it
the
for
last
us.
name.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say it how everyone else says it?
I
Or
want you to say
I
it how it should be said, and then you can do whatever you want to with it.
It's Alsruhe.
Alsruhe.
Oh, I
So
wasn't
like
that far off.
it's like balls without the B and kangaroo without the kanga.
There you go.
Alsruhe.
Alsruhe. There
See
we
that?
go.
You like that?
Balls kangaroo. Brian Balls kangaroo.
I did that on a video, and people were like,
They got
I
more
still have
confused.
no idea what your name is, but it's
Alsruhe.
Brian Alsruhe. Common spelling.
Okay, so now, brain tumor?
Yeah. So I have a pituitary microadenoma.
I told you there's something wrong with this guy.
So there's like it throws my endocrine system out of whack. Like you said, like tanning bed, dude. If I'm in the sun for like 10 minutes, I'm burnt.
Yeah.
This is mostly like stress, and I'm red all the time. And now that I'm talking about it, it's just getting worse.
Yeah.
Right?
When did you figure that out? Were there like side effects? Were you feeling like shit? Or
Yeah, man, my kidneys started doing like funny things. I was working another job that had to get a physical all the time. And I went to the physical, and they were like, yeah, your kidney function is really, really low. Like, this is like, you can't do anything until we figure this out. And that literally led to probably 6 months of tests of them being like, maybe it's this, maybe it's this, maybe it's this. And me just feeling very, very frustrated because my body was like turning on me and I didn't understand why. And then one dude was like, well, your endocrine system is pretty messed up. Let's do an MRI of your brain. So he did that, and I got a phone call one day, and he was like, hey, Brian, don't freak out. You have a brain tumor. And I'm like, what?
This is a doctor calling you?
Yeah.
well,
I'm like, am I
good.
going to die? He's like, no, you're not going to die. It's going to affect you, but you're not going to die. So, yeah.
Wow.
So I have it now. But I would have stopped getting hit in the head anyway. Like, and I wasn't good enough to go anywhere with it, especially,
It's got to be so competitive now.
now it's
Yeah.
a different world.
So you have to get like physicals, you have to get more physicals to check on the tumor here and there, or
Yeah. I need to get an MRI like every 6 months just to make sure that's not growing. And once it does
fuck,
grow
that's
big enough,
nerve-wracking.
I think right now the YouTube comments probably stress me out more than the brain tumor.
The thing is, there's just not very much extra room inside your head.
No.
So when you start growing a tumor, you start having other side effects like quick.
Yeah. And a lot of
Pain and-
people think it's from trauma, which
Yeah.
I've had a considerable amount of brain trauma. And they talk about a lot of guys like from WWE
Right.
who end up going a little crazy later in life.
Yeah.
And they're
Or
like,
even football.
football. And they're like, it was steroids. It was this. It was that.
Yeah.
And somebody's like, maybe it's because he got hit in the head a lot.
Yeah,
And they're
1,100 times.
But they're finding the same brain tumor in a lot of people with head trauma. Oh, wow. So
And that was mostly from your MMA stuff?
they have no idea. I could have
Yeah.
been born with it. It could have been from brain trauma. It
Yeah,
could-
Kicked in the face in 6th grade.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I got kicked in the face a lot. We used to have, because of like blood sport and stuff like that, down in my parents' basement, we used to invite kids over because Mortal Kombat was out and Street Fighter.
You had a Fight Club.
just all
You were
violent.
fucking Brad Pitt.
We had Fight Club before there were Fight Club.
And now you're
except
talking
fight
about it.
daycare.
You're breaking the first rule.
Yeah. But it was cool because there was like me and my best friend Ryan, we both trained and we were doing tournaments and stuff like that. And so we knew what we were doing.
So you're just beating the
as
shit
far
out of
as
your
knowing
friends.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'd invite kids over and be like, hey, come over for a sleepover. We like spar in the basement. And then we just beat the crap out of these kids and think it was like Mortal Kombat. Like, you know what I mean?
Throwing fucking
Yeah.
Hadoukens at little
Yeah, it was-
Timmy.
It was bad.
They're probably
Yeah.
like, what the hell? The Gracies actually got popular by having their one of the they're all crazy, but like I guess one of the uncles, he put an ad in like a penny saver type of thing,
yeah.
and it said, "Want a broken leg?" And then what it said underneath there, I know, crazy, right? What it said underneath there is, take your best skill that you have, come to our gym, and you put up whatever amount of money, and we'll put up the other half.
Yeah.
So somebody would walk in there with $5,000 saying, I'm a wrestler, and it would video everything. Imagine how viral that would be
Yeah.
now.
Gracie
Oh, yeah.
challenge.
Just as good as 6-year-olds
You
punching
can,
each other.
You
in the
can
face.
you can YouTube some of it, and it's pretty wild because like
Yeah, Kimbo
These-
Slice did go nuts on YouTube.
it was like that. It was
but a little more talented, maybe.
these guys were coming at him hard, and they were real violent. And they had a guy like Hoist Gracie who was all calm, just sitting there in his, jiu-jitsu outfit or whatever, and he would just take him apart at a certain point. But like the guy would come in acting crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and there wasn't like a ton you could do about it until the guy got tired, right?
So there's
Crazy
some
shit.
video. I believe they're called Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Action, and somebody's gonna roast me for
Here we
this.
go.
I'm sure.
Google it, Jim. We'll find
But
it.
Gracie, yeah, it's like Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Action, but it's a bunch of those
Yeah.
fights that they put out on like DVD. I know Hickson, who is kind of like
They say he's the
the
greatest
best guy,
fighter of all
right?
time, 100 or whatever. Yeah,
Right. But he yeah, dude, you've entered a different world of you're gonna be here a while.
Hey, there it is.
There it is.
Yeah, once you go down the rabbit hole, you just start watching all of them.
Yeah, like click that one. That one right there is Hickson
This one?
fighting Zulu, yeah. It's weird
like,
that
"I'm
I know
not a
this.
fan." He knows all
I
his
literally
names.
just I became 13 again.
Many years
But yeah,
ago.
anyway, like he hey. But yeah, these are like old school Gracie fights where they literally would have like challenge matches. It was like old school karate movies.
Right.
It's like your style versus my style, and
There's some still weird shit going on. Not to go too left field, but my barber, shout out Anthony, right now, he's in Thailand, I think Thailand, and he's throwing up like snaps or Instagram stories or whatever, and they have a boxing ring with like 15 dudes, and they're all blindfolded. And they're just fucking wailing each other, running around blindfolded.
Oh my
I was
God.
dying. I was like, dude, I don't know why. Well, I guess once you're in YouTube and content making, you're like,
There's also
you're like,
that-
this is a fucking vlog and a half.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Like, this is going nuts.
There's also that weird fight league where there's like teams. Have you seen that?
I've heard about
And
it.
like you'll see someone get knocked out, then they get back up because like you're only knocked out for a couple seconds, get back up, and they jump in the fight again. It's wild looking. You're like, what the hell? It's like 2 or 3 people at a time punching on one person. You're like, what the hell is happening?
They have like real live nights now where guys get in like suits of armor.
yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And like have MMA fights.
That sounds like a
Jousting.
fetish.
I'm like, what is wrong with these people? Like hitting each other with like maces and sword. I'm like, come on.
Ow.
Gosh.
yeah,
that-
LARPing gone real.
Yeah, 100%.
Exactly.
I know that
I think it's Russians.
the Gracies selected Hoist with like the intention of like he doesn't look like much. They could have used Hickson Gracie. Hickson Gracie's real muscular looking. He looks
Yeah.
like a badass. And they used Hoist. They're like, he's just so unassuming.
Yeah.
We're going to use him and build our brand. And
That's
then
smart.
it fucking worked because
Yeah.
he kicked everybody's ass. And then everybody started to find out what the hell jiu-jitsu was.
Yeah, this one, I don't know what's going on in this one, Jim.
I don't know either. This one seems
Dancing.
pretty
It's
It's
flat.
an hour long though. I wonder if
That's-
you could fast forward.
That's
Yeah, just go
essentially
for
what
it.
Al and I did. That's
There you
that's Hickson.
That's a porn right there.
Yeah. The quality. Look at that.
That was
Fix
was
the
Brazil.
tracking.
That,
iPhone 1.
you remember that?
Tracking, yeah.
Wow.
Scrambled porn. I remember it all. Alan, we had when we had Brian Shaw here, we were talking a little bit earlier about you keeping some of your mobility and stuff. And Alan, when you were here, you got to see Brian firsthand. You got to see him lift. What did the guy do when he first walked into the gym?
When Brian first walked in the
Yeah.
gym, other than eat a burrito, his
Complain about
warm-ups.
there not being enough
Yeah.
meat.
Yeah, Brian Shaw. I mean, the guy, he's stretching for half an hour. He's warming up. He's getting his body ready and
moving in all
prepared.
kinds of
Rode
directions.
a bunch.
And it's just a good message that no matter what level you're at in this sport, that you'd have to be cautious. You have to be careful. You have to select certain things to lift on certain days, certain ways. And then Mike, you and I witnessed him taking out a measuring tape and measuring how far the bands are apart. The first time he came here to do some deadlifts, and he was super precise with like every little movement. Are you taking that precaution when you're working out?
No. No.
Brian's actually not a fan of warming up, right?
I'd say
There's no right or wrong. I mean, everybody's
I'm not in
different.
the warm-up business, so you're not going to offend me.
No,
Yeah, me neither.
like when people, oh man,
Some people just like to
Feel
start
the
on the
heat
actual.
coming.
Well, no, some people just. For years I've started on just the actual movement, and I still do to some extent. But I try to just, depending on how I feel. If I come in and I'm like, shit, man, shit's pretty tight. Mike's got me doing a lot of reps on deadlifts and squats, and so it only makes sense for me to come in and warm up for a minimum of 10 or 15 minutes or so, just by moving around my legs, fucking throwing my arms around.
yeah.
We talk a
But
lot of shit
everyone's
about
different.
warming up.
Some people can come right in and just start going.
I haven't been warming up lately at all just because of time. I don't have time
exactly.
It's
to
time.
roll around for 15 or 20 minutes. And I figure the best way to warm up for a squat would be to squat. So
That's
the
what I
best way to
think.
warm up for a deadlift. So I'll do the bar for a couple of sets, 135 for a couple of sets, and not really be in a rush to put a bunch of weight on the bar.
Right.
I'm
It
kind of
just saves
similar.
time.
Why do you set to 10 or 20 up until, I don't know, I guess 50%.
Yeah.
And that's
Something
my
I
warm up.
learned and value quite a bit from James Smith was just that the easiest way to get warm, to actually get your body temperature up, is through your upper body. It just costs you the least amount. So if you think about it, you walk through the door and you're like, fuck, man, my knees are stiff, my lower back is stiff. It might take a little while to get into your squats. But if you did a few sets of lateral raises, then you did a seated row or a lat pull down, if let's just say you did a circuit back and forth of those and you did 3 sets of each, probably take you like 6 minutes, 8 minutes, and your body temperature would be up and you'd be like, okay, I'm ready to squat.
Right.
So I thought that was really valuable, but you don't need to waste tons and tons of time on warm up.
Well, I think the foam roller's the waste of time.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
are
that's-
spending.
so
yeah.
that's-
I could see it in your eyes. That like the same thing, like
Yeah.
Barber Brigade or my family and my homies. But that gym, you walk in and like everybody's on the foam roller for an hour. And you're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like,
Make
your
a
fascia's
slingshot foam roller.
Yeah, your fascia is not fucking changing.
Yeah.
Like, let's just go lift some weights. And you don't even train hard enough for your fascia to have an issue in the first place. Let's go lift.
If you're going to do it anywhere, just have a foam roller at your house and just do it while you watch TV, or just do it after the
I
training
think it's a thing
session
to do
rather than
after,
before.
anyways. To be
Like
honest,
get out of the shower after like a hot shower, so that you're kind of like loose, and then just kind of roll out so you get those endorphins and go to bed.
yeah, I think
You know,
I do.
if
think
I did it, it'd be
rolling and static stretching is a major thing that needs to be done after any performance and strength
but
training.
not before. Yeah.
I'd say if I did warm up, typically it's with some sort of animal walks, because that's what we used to do in fighting. So if you tell like someone who's never done a bear walk or crab walk or whatever to do animal walks, they're like, I'm not doing animal
What about
walks.
the sea walk? Are you
Sea
familiar?
walking.
Are you familiar?
Yeah,
No.
that's
Jim,
the,
give it to us. Give it to us, Jim.
Crips in the blood?
Yeah, the sea walk. This is how I typically warm
With
up.
a regular C?
Just sea dash walk.
But yeah, I mean, I'll do like animal walks to warm up, and I'll also count it as like conditioning. Like I'll do 10 minutes of hard.
Yeah, just that top
That
one.
kind of
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. Right here?
So you might
yeah,
start
top
with something
video.
easier and go into something more
dance
intense.
tutorial.
Yeah, just to get my whole body.
That's a warm up.
Here's the sea walk. This is typically.
That's pretty much exactly what a bear
That's
walk
what you're
looks
talking
good.
about, correct?
Good for your ankles, hips.
All of it. I don't know what that is.
That was quick.
That's an ad because
because we're selling
Heel
World of
toe
Warcraft books in between our crypt walk.
I've actually stopped making so much mobility and warm-up content because Brian and I were talking about this yesterday. People just look too far into it. I can't tell you how many people come to the gym or that I work with, and they're like, yeah, I've been really wanting to lift weights, but I haven't been lifting. I haven't increased the weight for about 6 months because I'm really just working on my mobility, or I'm really working on my ankle mobility.
Too-
Like,
enough
you've been wasting
information
your
to
time.
Also, too, to also point out that even when you say you don't warm up, you're warming up for about a half an hour. When you lift the weights, kind of weights that you're lifting, you got like almost a minimum. I would say like there's almost no way around it. Of like you could come in here cold and pull 600 pounds, but you got like a limited or a time of about 20 minutes it takes you to do 1 plate, 2 plates, 3 plates, and so on.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be some progression into warming up for something more intense. Another thing that James said that I think is really great information is the shorter duration of what it is that you're actually doing, the longer that the warm-up would be. So it does take you 20 minutes to get to a 600-pound deadlift. If you were going if you're going to go run a marathon, maybe you don't need that long of a warm-up for that because the intensity level of that is low.
Yeah.
Every time I run a marathon.
Yeah.
And the way the way I look at it, if him at 250 pounds and you at maybe 290 pounds, if you guys have the mobility, which doesn't need to be that high, to squat and deadlift,
right?
You know what I mean? Then these guys who come in who weigh 150 pounds, who are beginners, they don't need to worry. You know what I mean? If you guys can do it,
fair point.
Their IT band is not so tight that they can't.
We're talking
squat.
to Kelly
and it
Strutter.
doesn't take a whole bunch of mobility to bend over and grab a bar, unless you're 7 feet tall, you know what I mean? But
we were talking to Kelly Strutt, I guess maybe a month ago or so, and no one talks about mobility being just as specific as strength is specific, as nutrition is specific as whatever your goals or sport are. And I agree 100% that everyone well, how do I hit depth in a squat? Like my Achilles and my fucking TL band. Like, fuck you, dude. Like, squat, do a pause squat.
If you really do have tight ankles, because that's like everyone likes to say they have tight ankles and they can't squat, then just affect your squat a little bit. Don't let your knees travel so far forward. Sit your hips back a little bit.
Yeah, more
you can
vertical
adjust.
shin.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Or put 700 pounds on the bar.
Yeah,
You'll
that'll
hit
switch
that.
your ass.
It's a weighted stretch. Yeah.
Also,
there's actually a little study I might have talked about too. There's a dope Instagram I follow where these guys are blasting out studies with little summaries in the caption. Fuck, I forgot what it's called. But he said the same thing, that lifting weights under load will take you through that range of motion and keep that flexibility and range of motion just as much, if not more, than a static stretch or any mobility.
Right.
Yeah. And I also hesitate to go too much into something like a warm-up because it's going to be so different for each person and what they're trying to accomplish that day and everything. But you can't say, do some stretching, because you will get 300 emails saying, well, how many seconds per how many leg rep set? And I'm like, just stretch, man.
Yeah.
It's like lifting. Like it's not that complicated. Everyone at this table got to where they were doing basic things for a long period of time.
Yeah, just starting.
Yeah, getting through the door. So
How'd you like Alan's gym?
I like it a lot, man. It
Got everything you need for some strongman stuff, huh?
Yeah, it feels like home because
I
It's
just
very
look at all
similar
that
to
stuff
mine.
and I'm like, I could just really hurt myself if I try to touch any of this shit.
You'd be good. You'd
Yeah,
be good at powerlifting.
I guess talking back
Or
with
strongman.
maybe some importance for mobility for a guy like Brian Shaw, being 6'9", picking up a
Yeah.
stone or a sandbag that's laying flat, that's like an extreme deficit
Yeah.
deadlift. You know, like you got to dig your knuckles into the ground.
Yeah.
So for a guy like him, being able to move is important to get
It's
down.
also literally his living. So maybe he pulls time away from trying to make a viral YouTube video
Yeah.
and sticks time into stretching,
Yeah.
right, and warming up
Exactly.
and make sure something stupid doesn't happen when he's trying to, deadlift 1,100 pounds against Eddie Hall, right?
yeah.
We have a lot of people in our sport that will say things like, well, stones are easy for him because he's tall. And I'm like, that just means he needs to go down further.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it might
really.
be easier to get it to the platform, but he's got, like, you're short, so your pick's going to be
Yeah.
easier. You might have to bring
Well,
it
you were
higher.
talking about, use it or lose it type thing. That's exactly what Brian's doing when he's working on all those different movements. When he goes down and bends down to grab the bar for a deadlift, his, if you can kind of picture this, with his legs straight, his shoulders are way lower than where his hips are before he drops down into his deadlift.
Right.
And then he drops down in like the most perfect position you've ever seen for a deadlift. And you're like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
If that big boy can do that shit, then
Right.
I better be able to do that. But I think that the reason why he does all the warm up and some of that mobility stuff is just to take him through those old ranges of motion that he probably has been doing forever, playing basketball.
He's
and
dunking
deadlifting.
on dudes.
And bottom
Yeah.
line is, if you enjoy doing it, if it makes you feel good, who cares what
Yeah,
science
yeah.
says?
Right.
Do it.
The
I guess. If
Arnold
you have the time
Classic
for it.
is the Arnold Classic is going to be really interesting because I heard originally I heard that Big Z retired, and then now I heard that he's competing.
Yeah.
And
Just lighter.
I think that Sadrunas Savickas, I think that he competed recently and did not do very well because he's I don't.
What did he drop?
lose-
80 pounds?
I think 100
That was
maybe.
a lot.
I'm sure he's still really, really strong, but
Yeah.
some of the movements that require just sheer mass, like a plane pole or even the yoke walk, it might suffer a little bit. But there's a video of him pressing
1,600 pounds. I heard.
Yeah.
Well, the
Is what
Arnold,
they're moving at the Arnold.
the Arnold
1,600.
is a heavier show,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
something like
it's-
that. 1,600.
Yeah,
fucking
even like the
pounds.
yoke walks they do are like 15 or 20 feet with like 1,500 pounds.
1,600
Yeah, because
pounds.
they're on a stage at the Arnold for those that are
Right.
listening, and it's literally like a stage, like a theater stage. So it's a lot smaller distance, so they
Yeah.
amp the weight, whereas World's Strongest Man might be on a beach or a parking lot,
Right.
so they can go 100 yards if they
Right.
need to
Right.
with a lighter implement.
But yeah, he probably did lose a little bit of strength. There was a video of him recently pressing a 200-kilo log. His best is 505.
And what's
so
that,
440?
445?
Yeah.
He's not far off, I guess.
Yeah.
That's still.
I know that like for people don't understand. For years, he's gone up and down in weight. Whenever he does some of the big shows, he drops down in weight, but he's never dropped down like this.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see the rivalry between him and
When Eddie-
Brian.
I still hope Brian beats him.
Eddie and
USA,
Thor, Thor
USA.
are still super young. I think they're 28.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd imagine in all sports, strongman included in those, that you're just going to improve with time.
Yeah.
So from
Right.
28 to 32, they're still going to get better. And not to say that Big Z and Brian aren't getting better and working hard, but once you're in your 30s or closer
Yeah.
to 40s, progress just slows in everything you do. Right?
Yeah.
You're such an expert, and your body's so.
Thor is so fast too.
Yeah.
At some of
Yeah.
the events, he's like finished them so quick.
I think it's a good time for strongman. Like, they have good characters. There's multiple of them. You know, bodybuilding's slowly dying away for. You can point to a lot of reasons. Maybe too freaky for the public to understand this and that. But Phil's just crushing everybody,
Yeah.
and no one wants to watch that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's not
strongmen
much
are
drama.
becoming professional athletes, and their sport is strongman.
Yeah.
More so than 10, 15, 20 years ago when it was just a bunch of guys.
It was a freak
lifting
show.
Yeah, it was
And more of a hobby.
circus sideshow.
Yeah.
We were talking about that too. The first World's Strongest Man, it was like, we got so-and-so, he's a lineman for the Eagles.
That was
and
the
then
best.
Cleve
Yeah.
Dean, he's a pig farmer from Georgia.
Yeah.
It's
I think
funny.
that's amazing, though.
Yeah.
That's still like the Pride UFC in the beginning too. You got randomness, just
Yeah.
fucking battling
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, a guy who was like 7 foot tall versus like,
yeah,
you know.
you never figure, never
Yeah.
get anything like that
In
again.
those old
Right.
strongman videos, they're just like competing in random like singlets and stuff.
Franco
Yeah.
Columbo's
I
and
saw-
those coaching.
Columbo,
He's
yeah.
in those
Yeah.
coaching shorts for no reason again.
Yeah.
I saw Don Reinhout, who's a
Yeah.
famous power lifter, held multiple records for years, had the all-time raw total record for a long time. I think he squatted like 951 and some ace bandage knee wraps back in the day. This is unbelievable strength, but he's got those old like aviator. Actually, they weren't aviator. He has those old glasses
Blue blocker.
on.
Are they blue blockers?
Yeah,
I
they're
have
like
them in my car.
yeah, they're like prescription glasses, but they're like tinted or whatever.
Yeah.
He's got those old glasses on. He's got just a sick ass porn stash. He's got this crazy singlet on. He couldn't be fatter. I mean, he's fucking huge. And they interview him after this like squat that he did, and he squatted like all these chicks, all these girls in bikinis. He's squatting them, and he did the most reps. And he comes over to the camera and he's like, "Hey, do I get to keep those ladies for being able to win this event?" And they're like, "Sorry, big guy, not this time." And they start talking to him, and he's talking about how he's an accountant.
Yeah.
Like, he was just like, he's a power lifter, and he's that world's strongest man competing with some of the best. And he's got this like side job. He's got a real, not a side job, a real job.
Sideshow,
Yeah,
pretty cool.
That is a weird thing about like strongman and powerlifting. Like, if you're the world champion at something, you'd think that would be your job.
Everything would automatically
you know what I
taken
mean?
care of.
But it's not.
I think
I
think it's heading that way, hopefully, because bodybuilding's been that way for a couple decades, I'd say, where if you're the top 5, even top 10, you're getting by with sponsorships and random gigs here and there, and hopefully, powerlifting's still a ways away, but strongman, I think, is getting closer, and hopefully powerlifting.
You look
and
at
some
that,
CrossFit's already there.
Cash prize.
Probably the top 20, 30 guys and girls in CrossFit probably get away with sponsorships or maybe coaching some classes here and there.
Coaching, I think.
But it's marketable. It's more marketable.
Probably any of them with over 200,000 followers are probably doing pretty well.
They should be able to do okay, and hopefully more a strongman, right? You get not only the top 10, but the top 20 guys get to make it a career, and maybe one day even powerlifting.
Look how successful Eddie Hall is, and in the Netflix movie. Anybody who hasn't seen that should check it out. Matt Bell, who directed it, is not related to me. But congratulations, fucking good film. But even in that movie, he's pursuing that. He's pursuing trying to be like a professional. And he's finally
welding.
like, I get to
like
quit
a
my job.
mechanic, right?
Yeah, he's working on trucks and stuff like that.
That's crazy.
And he's like, I get to finally quit, having this manual labor job, and I can now put more time into my family, into being a professional strongman. So, if he's struggling with it and he's lifting 1,100 pounds, then that is a very real thing that everyone has to deal with.
Right. Yep.
So what is the powerlifting perspective on like Eddie Hall's deadlift? Like, he used straps, and it was like, I
think it's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking awesome. This is my point of view. I can't speak for all powerlifting.
Right.
Fucking ridiculous. Fucking awesome. If he wants, the sport of powerlifting is squat, bench, dead. If he wants to have the biggest deadlift in powerlifting, he has to go do a powerlifting meet. Not to say what he did isn't cooler or even better than the best powerlifting deadlift.
Yep.
It is, but in my opinion, it's just different. It's the same thing as a single ply squat and a raw squat.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, but you can't really compare.
So I've never done a powerlifting meet. I want to do a powerlifting meet. Like, hopefully this year will probably be my first one. But what I've heard about is that by the time that you get to the deadlift, it's not your deadlift. Like, it's whatever's left
by person, right? It goes back to GPP and other factors of how good a shape you are, and the fatter, sloppier guys will probably struggle with that.
Fast the competition is.
Yeah.
There's
a bunch of stuff,
and he's dealt with that many times doing strongman, where they do have a deadlift component somewhere mixed in there.
After 3 others,
but he's still out deadlift everybody at the Arnold. I don't remember, that was the first event actually. Now that I think about it. But he's had to deal with that, many times before. I don't think it would affect him that much. I think what would affect him is just being able to hold on to the damn bar.
I think the equipment, even though Rogue and some people say it's similar, I don't think it's the same. So the barbell is actually different.
They use
the
elephant
whip
bar.
Yeah, the whip and the bar is going to be different.
It's like 12 feet long,
and it can
like
help. So not to say that he couldn't take a powerlifting world record, because him or Brian or Thor, anybody possibly could.
Probably, yeah.
All those guys are.
But you can't do it until you've done it, right?
Well, if you look at it from this perspective too. There's in the history of powerlifting, make sure I get this right. There's only 2 guys who have ever deadlifted 1,000 pounds plus on a platform.
Bolton and
Andy
Benny.
Bolton.
Yeah, and that's it. And then in strongman, I think there's been like 4 or 5 now.
Especially at that Arnold, I feel like everyone was banging out 1,000.
Like everyone.
I think there's been about 5 guys who've done 1,000. So because the rules are different, because the bar is different, it's allowing them to lift a little bit more weight.
Maybe we get Rogue Fitness to send us that elephant bar. And we'll put
it out.
We'll put some power lifters through it and see if there's a big pound. If I'm pulling 800 pounds on that thing when my best deadlift's 700, now we have some kind of equation that all right, this thing's really giving them a lot.
We need to get some Hummer tires.
I'm not against it.
This is the Instagram. This is the Instagram bar.
Yeah. That's true, with the fake plates.
What I really like about Eddie Hall's deadlift is that I think before that he may have done like 1,040. So for him to be wrapping his brain around 1100, that's pretty fucking wild.
Yeah.
60 extra pounds.
Yeah. Was
like
his-
Mike, you got to pull 760 now. Like, 60 extra pounds after you've already accomplished something pretty damn cool is amazing. I thought it was a really cool feat of strength. One of the better feats of strength I've seen when he did that deadlift in front of Arnold.
Yeah,
that was really cool. Like that was really neat for me to see because that's kind of what you're trying to capture. You're trying to capture that like somebody gives a fuck, and in this instance, it's the man, it's Arnold,
Right.
the one who inspired everybody to pick up weights in the first place. So I thought that was cool.
A lot of them are using single ply suits. Yeah, was Eddie's not to
Some of them-
take away? I
some
think
of them
Eddie's.
use- yeah, some
I
of them
think
use
Eddie's in a
suits.
suit, no belt.
I'm not sure. I know he does wear a suit. Brian says Brian doesn't.
Yeah,
Right.
Brian goes
Probably because
belt.
they don't make a big enough suit. for
That's
him.
true, but he goes belt, no suit, and I think Eddie goes suit, no belt.
I think it's-
Brian deadlifted the same as him at the last
At the
Arnold.
World's Strongest Man,
and a lot
yeah.
of people say that it was a lot cleaner.
Not to be biased, because Brian is a good friend of mine, but I was there, and his, besides the straps and the equipment, his would pass in a powerlifting meet.
Right.
And everybody
No
else
hitching.
that deadlifted 1,000 there would not have passed in a
Right.
powerlifting meet because of like up, down, or hitching, or ramping, or
Brian-
whatever
Brian,
you want to
when
call it.
Brian was here, he said that he got pissed off at Eddie and he called him out because they had one miss and you could still go.
Yeah.
And Eddie, everyone was taking the same jumps, 900, 950, 1,000.
He played a game.
And he said, I'm going to take my miss. And so that was after everyone took the second attempt.
Right.
And so Brian's like, we just took our 3 attempts. You got a good 30 minutes to rest,
Right.
So he was pissed.
I
But-
think Eddie did outlift him by a little bit because I think Brian did like 1,021. I think
It was like
Eddie
10
did
or
like
15.
okay.
1,026.
Yeah.
or whatever. But
Okay.
they lifted the same at the. They lifted the same couple times. Brian's actually beaten him a few times in a strongman competition.
Right.
in
World's
the
Strongest
deadlift.
Man, remember they agreed
Yeah.
to stop.
Yeah, they
the same
both were
weight.
just like,
Yeah.
hey, we're both kind of fucked. Like that was
Yeah.
heavy.
Yeah.
They both did like 980 or.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you think about that, like
Yeah.
you're pulling like 920, 960, 980, 1,000.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
Insane
it's not like you're
conditioning.
just like making a 100-pound jump to be like, I'm going for it. If I get it, I get it. If I miss it,
Yeah.
it's done. Like you're pulling
Yeah.
in like the 90 percentile.
That's where something
And
like that.
after pulling a C-130.
Yeah.
yeah.
Something like that may obviously play to their benefit if they did do a full powerlifting meet, because they can
Right.
handle those max loads for multiple repetitions within a day with pulling a plane and then 3 hours later trying to deadlift.
Do you
Right.
guys? We actually answered this in a Q&A talking about. Somebody asked what we thought about CrossFit, and I'm like, dude, anytime somebody is picking up a heavy thing, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like it's all you all care about the same things. Like stop focusing on stupid stuff. But so do you guys think the majority of the powerlifting world respects strongman, or is it kind of the those guys do stupid things?
I think there's a pretty good mutual respect between powerlifting community and strongman community, which is just lame because we talk about this all the time. It's always kind of these people in the middle. It's not really the best powerlifters or the
Right.
most vocal
Yeah.
or the most popular, whatever powerlifters that are ever talking shit on CrossFit or ever talking shit on strongman or bodybuilding. It's always kind of these middle group that maybe they want more Instagram
Ain't
likes or
never
maybe
gonna
they
be nobody.
Yeah, they're not world record holders,
Yeah.
but they're decent. They're the ones always bashing, and maybe some of those guys will talk shit on strongman, but I think generally people like the same thing. Like that's what we
Yeah.
talk about all the time. Like, look, there's a barbell and there's someone trying to get after it. Like, go fucking
also
for it.
Yeah,
I like
Ben
weight.
Smith and Brian Shaw. they were
Yeah,
getting
I like
together.
weightlifting
Right.
a lot too. Like, I'm not going to do it, but I think weightlifting's fucking sick. I'll watch live streams of it, American Open and whatever when it's going on. I think it's awesome.
There's also just nowhere to hide when you compete. Whether you're doing strongman or CrossFit or powerlifting, powerlifting we end up with a total. CrossFit you end up with whatever they end up with.
Points, I
but
think.
they are still in a competitive competition that's being judged. Strongman the same thing. They're still in a competitive competition that's being judged. You can't fake lifting up a 300-pound stone.
Right.
It just weighs what it weighs, and you got to figure out a way to lift that fucking thing up. And I respect, all avenues of the strength game. And I think even further beyond that, I can appreciate any form of strength. I see somebody, I saw on your Instagram, you're doing that flagpole thing.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ,
Flag
and
thing.
yeah, and there's
That was just proof that big guys could do it.
Yeah.
That would, the
what's his name does it? Our big SC boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he can do that. He weighs 325.
Yeah.
That's a big.
That's more impressive.
That's a big son of a bitch, you know. But I can appreciate any kind of strength. Even watching something like gymnastics, somebody
100%,
does
man.
fucking iron cross or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you ever tried to do that?
No,
It's impossible.
Talk about your specific strength.
I've
Photoshop.
never been
Yeah.
able to do that. I'll never will be able to do that.
So when are you going to make some money and win the CrossFit Games?
You know what? I get asked that a lot. They're like, let's face it, buddy, you're probably not going to go anywhere in strongman. You're probably not going to go anywhere in powerlifting. Like,
Thanks for watching,
maybe
guys.
CrossFit. And I'm like, thanks, everybody.
I think
So-
there was one guy over 220 that made it to the games, maybe ever.
Yeah, the hardest-
as an individual, that's Sam Dancer.
The hardest part about bigger guys would be the running, the swimming, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the modern CrossFit era.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
God damn, I'm so bad with names. Our offensive lineman, that's
John
been-
Wellborn.
John Wellborn. There we go.
Yeah.
He's got to be
I
the
got
biggest guy
amnesia
ever.
going
Yeah,
on.
but the qualifications to get to the games were much
they weren't
different back then.
done
It
yet.
was,
Yeah,
it was
he was-
drive
yeah.
to Santa Cruz and
Yeah,
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
were, they
yeah.
were like in a field instead of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
have a beer or two and see what you can do.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he was in that Every Second Counts
Yeah, yeah.
documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was
Other
pretty
one
cool
is-
to see a big guy doing it.
Even Highland Games, because I know
Yeah,
most of those guys
absolutely.
train with barbells, and then they're throwing heavy things for fucking distance. I think it's cool.
You guys were talking about T Nation. You guys remember Dan John?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dude.
Read a couple of his books. I like
yeah,
that.
He's still
dude,
around?
he is. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
I wasn't saying. But man, I respect every word that comes out of dude's mouth. Like we have different. He's like into throwing and stuff like that. But I just love when people keep things simple.
Yeah.
Because I hate when people overcomplicate and just. We talked about it in the gym the other
Yeah.
day. I was like, I get asked so many questions about stuff that I'm like. I don't care about that, and I'm at like 2 steps above you, and I've never thought about that in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not that.
Never even
that
thought of
good
that
yet.
equation.
Yeah, and but he was always one of my favorite authors on there because all his stuff was like no nonsense, like pick this up, carry it over there,
Push pull squat.
pick it up, and that was his whole game. But Highland Games, man, those guys can generate some force
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Vincent's another guy who
Yeah,
keeps it simple.
100%, man.
He tries to execute his throws and the different disciplines he's asked to do to the best of his ability with the best possible technique. And then when he lifts, he does the same thing.
Yeah,
Like I'm not just going to squat a 1 rep max randomly. I'm going to, squat multiple sets and multiple reps and make them all look similar.
Right.
Jim Wendler's another huge proponent.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of people read 531 and they're like, "Fuck yeah, I can do conjugate and I can switch things up here and there and I can, on the last week just go all out." If you read his book, you go back and read his book. He doesn't want you ever missing any reps.
Right.
He wants you to keep the reps clean. He wants you to always make them. He wants them always look identical. He even starts you out with lower percentages that you could,
so you can progress longer.
you can progress. You could probably
Give yourself room to progress.
do
Yeah.
a much higher percentage to start, but he wants you to make the lifts look clean.
And it's always hilarious when someone. I remember Jim had that entire forum on T Nation just answering questions about 531, and guys would be like, "Well, can I substitute bench press for, handstands and then do this?" And Jim's like, "Yeah, do whatever you want, but it's not my program. Like you're not following my program. Like my program, I thought this out. Like this has some thought behind it. Like
Yeah.
Everybody always wants to take 531 and add something else to
Yeah.
it. Add some other program to graft them together and come up with their own hybrid weird ass thing when they haven't actually run through 531
Yeah.
yet.
Yep. 100%, man.
Or any other program. Everybody's always trying to overthink shit.
It's training ADD. Like
Yeah.
you read an article and you're like, yeah, that's no, now, yeah.
Yeah,
You know
you
what I
think
mean?
there's a missing piece somewhere, but there's not.
Yeah, the secret.
Yeah.
The missing piece is the consistency and trying it yourself all the way through.
100%. It's a crane kick in Karate Kid. It's unstoppable. They're just looking for that unstoppable move.
Andrew. All right, we got so because we're on Instagram Live, I believe we're on my Instagram, correct? We're on. Oh, okay. We shut it down for a minute.
Shut it down. Time to go home.
Well, we can still answer the questions.
Yeah, you got a couple questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first off, everyone right away, like Brian related to John Cena in any way, shape, or form.
No,
I know we
no.
kind of already covered that, but
No, we make the same
People
amount
really
of money.
ask that?
yeah.
We,
Okay, cool. So then, I guess for a more strongman related question, looks like the Vic SA just signed up for his first strongman competition. Where should his mindset be right now?
have fun, man. See if you like it. Because honestly, if you get involved in it, don't take it too seriously. Number one, no one's making money. No one's getting famous. It's not going to get you girls. So just try to have fun with it. Just do your first contest, enter the novice division if you're a novice level, so that you can just go out and, root for your fellow competitors, because in strongman, everyone roots for everybody else. There's a lot of camaraderie there, but it's just about having fun. What do you think, man?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're going to meet a lot of people. Talk to everyone. Don't be the asshole who just hides in the corner and takes it way too seriously.
Yeah.
But and don't be, I wouldn't say don't be nervous. Nerves are good, but just have some fun and
I guess
don't worry about
the
what
next
happens.
question then is if it's not strongman, how do we get rich? How do we get famous? And how do we get girls if it's not strongman?
Don't ask me.
CrossFit. You already said CrossFit.
That's actually a pretty good answer.
And then, like Iron Strong asks, your guys' thoughts on high school strength coaches teaching the clean instead of the deadlift. Apparently, that's a thing now.
I think it's.
I think it's been a thing
I think
forever.
it's. They don't teach a deadlift because you can really maximize the amount of weight you can lift. With anyone, the deadlift is always going to be the most amount of weight you can lift. So therefore, it has the highest risk of potential injury, especially if you don't know how to coach it. So the clean, we're going to handle the clean. Usually everyone's technique is pretty much garbage. So we're using really light weights. The kids probably aren't going to hurt themselves. So that's probably the main reason.
I'm not a big fan of the clean either. When I worked with a lot of sports teams, we'd do something like a med ball toss.
There's other ways to train.
Yeah, people talk about the clean and the snatch because of triple extension and this and that. But you can do it in clean. You can do it in broad jumps. I think those are easier
box
ways.
Jumps, medicine ball throws, 10-yard sprints.
I think those are easier ways to manage movement patterns than under any load, and then let alone clean and jerk and snatch or a sport of their own. And that takes 20 years to master. So I would actually, this is obviously literally just Silent Mike's fucking coaching words, so take it for what you want, but I would deadlift, light, kind of typical West Side dynamic stuff with an athlete, because you get a lot of hip extension and power there, but it would always be light because you don't need to max out, especially at a young age, even in my opinion in older ages. And then med ball toss and sprints, you can fucking do everything.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Even a tire before that. I would probably throw around a fucking tire before I do a clean and jerk.
And I think that someone who doesn't understand strength training looks at the deadlift and goes, "What the hell is that going to do? Picking up weight? That's stupid."
What muscle does
Everything. What it does is everything.
All of it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It's my opinion that a lot of coaches just aren't really thinking about why they're doing something.
Right.
So they may say, "Oh, we're coaching a volleyball team, and I want them to be more explosive, so we're going to do plyometrics and we're going to do power cleans." Well, your volleyball team is jumping all the time. Your basketball team is jumping all the time. Maybe the focus should just be on getting stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
So the body's lighter, feels lighter.
In defense of some of the coaches and some people shying away from something like a deadlift, as you guys know, from a heavy deadlift session, 2, 3, 4, sometimes even 5 days later, you're still kind of moving around slow.
Right.
And so that's where I would say you would want to be cautious of that depending on where somebody is in their season, because you can't afford to move around slow and sluggish like that when you got practice the next day.
Right.
You're trying to do sprints and conditioning and so on. It's gonna wear your ass out quick. But I don't think the coaches even know that they're switching out the exercise because of that reason. Mm-hmm. And what you mentioned, the power clean, you're going to use a lot less weight, and that might be the reason why there's more of a focus on that. But they could even just practice the deadlift, use less weight, and get great results from it, and not even worry about the power clean at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's probably why they do it. I'm not saying
you're
they
answering
shouldn't.
for America.
Right, I'm not saying they shouldn't do it.
Absolutely.
And I think that strength, everyone can get stronger, and I think strength out of all of the physical characteristics is the one that you have the most control over, not necessarily explosiveness. It's more of a genetic component to it, but anyone can get stronger. So
absolutely,
you should deadlift.
If we can bring it back to powerlifting, Wes 6769 has his first powerlifting.
What's up, Wes?
He wants to know how can he choose his second and third lifts. I'm assuming he means weight.
Yep.
Yeah, old school way of doing it was, your first attempt was something that you could do for 3 reps. Your second attempt was something that you can do for a double. And your last attempt was kind of like wherever you think you would be, or just a single that you already hit in the gym. If you're completely new to the sport, I would suggest having your main goal and your main focus of that competition being that you make 9 out of 9 lifts or 8 out of 9 lifts, because the more successful you are, the more lifts that you hit, the higher that your first total is going to be. And then also, the more lifts that you get, the more money, the more fame, and the more pussy you get.
Yeah. Here's what I think you should do, Wes. For your opener, specifically for the deadlift, it should be something you've never lifted before, heavier than you've ever lifted.
At least 5%, right?
It should take 5 to 10 seconds to grind. Once you lock it out, I want you to look side to side, stare down at the crowd, and then slam the weight down as hard as you can. Let everyone know that you're there to win.
Or be Bradley Castleberry, and on your
victory
for your squat, you should warm up past anything you've ever squatted before.
Oh, yeah, in the warm-up room, yeah.
And fall.
Yeah, make the opener feel light.
Yes.
That's a good idea.
Bradley Castleberry's only powerlifting meet we were at.
That was crazy.
You want one or two more?
I think we're good, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, right on. Thanks, guys.
All right, that was from our Instagram live. We're just kind of messing around with some live feeds. We're circling around. We did some stuff on my Facebook last time. This time we tried it out on Instagram. We'll be messing around with that more. Just always trying to advance the PowerCast, always trying to do new and exciting things. Where can people find you at, Brian?
Instagram is at NEVERSate. That's NEVERSATE.
What the hell
What's
does
that
that
about?
mean? Yeah.
All right.
Never satiated, right? Never full. Never
Look at this
never enough.
Stay
Sate-
hungry,
Sate-
stay foolish.
Never enough.
Sate not can't be a
We did a
goddamn
DVD
word.
series called
Sate?
Never
Is
Enough.
it?
Same thing.
Yeah, it's
It's
like
a real word?
satiated.
Yeah.
Like
Oh.
like your hunger satiated.
Yeah.
So it means like the pursuit of like constant and never-ending
book.
improvement.
I'm in it.
Like
Yep.
be happy where you're at, but always be
I'm in
trying to get better. You can also find my YouTube channel at Brian Alsruhe at Brian with an
I
I,
got it.
BRIANALSRUHE. Facebook, you can look up Brian Alsruhe, but much like Alan said yesterday, like I have 5,000 friends. I don't know any of them, so I can't have any more friends.
Have you ever shit yourself?
Today?
Just in general. What's your poop story?
He's never satiated,
got a
so
poop
he's
story.
never,
From this
So you
morning.
never shit, or you always shit?
never.
Was this before or after the burrito challenge?
Oh yeah, that someone probably shit themselves there.
All right, so
Well, let's hear it. I can't wait to hear it.
Satiated means full, and so you're never full, so you're always hungry.
I'm never hungry.
You're never hungry.
I'm
But your
never
name's
hungry.
Let's
Never
just
Sate.
change. We should change the name to Never Hungry.
Never hungry.
Yeah.
Fully
I'm
satisfied. Fully satisfied.
Satiated. Let's just go use the same word. Satiated. Just go spell out the whole thing.
Yeah, the back of your shirt says "die empty," right?
Yes.
Kind of the same.
Yeah,
concept.
same
that's
idea.
cool. I like it.
I'm full of shit.
Yes,
I'm full.
basically.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, your shit story?
Yeah, I came here for
Yeah.
the shit story. That's
Yeah,
the only
I
reason
know.
I'm standing here.
Alan
Moral
Thrall
support and a
is
poop story.
top 5.
Yeah, his was pretty good.
Thank you.
He
Yes.
really had a
Brian-
I got to
Brian's-
get a golden PowerCast button that I can hang at the
Brian
end.
Shaw's
button.
in Russia or wherever he was pretty good too.
Yeah.
a golden turd. You will see.
The Turd
receive
Awards. We should
one
do it some Turd Awards.
Gold. We did the Instagrammies that one time.
Yeah, the Instagrammies.
Oh, nice.
Liftograms.
That's pretty awesome.
We made it up, but yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to hear yours though. It's the only reason I invited you out here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Poop stories with Never Full.
So this was after a lot of thinking, because
You have so many.
I think there's a lot
There's a
in
theme.
my repertoire.
You're full of shit.
But
There's a lot of stories.
so I would say the worst ever though was I was on a plane and I was flying to the Middle East, right? So I had like a 16-hour flight ahead of me, and I had a really bad sinus infection. And I'm sitting on the plane, and when I'm talking, I'm like all like congested and weird. And the flight attendant comes up, and she's like, "Oh, you're sick." And I was like, "Yeah, can I just have like hot tea so I can try to keep the congestion down?" Well, I kept asking for hot tea, so she literally brought out a pot, like one of those little pots that are on the airplanes.
Hot tea laced with magnesium citrate.
Yeah, it was bad. So I just keep drinking tea, and then it hits. Like my stomach drops to a point where like it was instant. Like,
Yep, struck
oh
by
no,
lightning.
oh no, right? And like goosebumps, and I'm like sweating, and I'm like looking at my watch. I'm like, 14 hours to go. I can hold out. I'm not going on a plane. You know what I mean? And I do my best to not go on a plane. You know what I mean? So eventually I have to give in. So I grab my toothbrush and my toothpaste so that it can look
Like you're brushing your teeth for
like
a
I'm
half
brushing
hour.
my teeth.
Why are you afraid of shitting on an airplane?
The way you should be on some of the airplanes I've been on, man. Like I've traveled a lot in my old job, like a lot. And trust me, it wasn't gonna be a half an hour. Like it was pure. It was
3
like
seconds.
somebody
It was
dumped a
messy.
gallon of water down my mouth. So I sit down and literally just destroy this toilet. And if you guys have ever been on a airplane and and you have had to go to the bathroom on the airplane, when you flush, like the idea is it's just like air, just like sucks it through, right? And later I found out, future reference for all of you guys, if you lay down paper towels and then you go, when you flush, the paper towels will take it all with it. That's not what I did. So I'm sitting there and it's a lot. I'm not gonna get too graphic, but it was a lot, right? When I flushed, it just made a donut, right? It literally just sucked the middle out, and the rest is just sitting there, right? And
turd splatter everywhere.
And I'm like, oh no, like how am I going to get rid of this, right? There's got to be a solution to this problem.
Someone's not brushing their teeth.
And I'm
Evidence.
I'm looking at my toothbrush, and I'm like, I'm gonna need that. Like looking at like paper towels, I'm like, that's not sanitary. Like it's like when you're over a friend's house as like a kid and you call it a tour, and you're like, how am I gonna get rid of this problem?
Dumb and Dumber.
So I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, maybe no one will notice, right? I need to sneak back to my room while there's literally a poop donut sitting in the toilet, right? So I go back to my seat, and because it was just.
That's when you walk out of there and hit the next person. Be like, somebody blew that thing up.
Well,
be
that's
careful
the
in
thing.
there.
Almost everyone was asleep, but since I had literally drank a pot of, it's like I'm awake with like my little light on. No one else besides flight attendants are awake, right? So as soon as I walk out with my little toothbrush, like, look, I just brushed my teeth, everybody, right? Literally the flight attendant walks right in. I'm like, oh no, like the red-handed, right?
To land this plane.
She walked in the door and was like, right back out, and had this look of horror, and immediately went to like the group of where all the little flight attendants were, like back in like the galley,
Pointing
and
at
starts
you.
like whispering, and I'm like,
22A.
Yeah.
looking over, and she's like,
The pilot
Say
comes
so.
on the loudspeaker. We're gonna have to turn this thing around.
and it was literally just the most like disgusting
Somebody
moment of my life.
Somebody did disrupt like remember like it's a year ago or 2 years ago. Somebody sent us a link where somebody took some catastrophic shit on a plane and they had to fucking turn it around.
Yeah.
They had to land it. They had to do an
God.
emergency
Probably this.
landing.
It was
Turn it
probably this
around.
trip.
That sounds
could've been
like
my
yeah.
goodness.
So
That
yeah,
sounds like it might have been it.
I was there with my shame for another like 14 hours on a plane.
Jesus.
But
Never
the
drink
flight
the whole
attendant,
flight.
but the flight attendant did come up to me like 12 hours later and was like, "Was that you?" And I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." I was brushing my teeth, and then she was like, "Look, for future reference, do this paper towel thing." And I was like, How did I go my entire
She's
life?
been
without
there
knowing
before.
this?
You think they would
Apparently,
mention that?
right?
Go in there with a bottle of water next
Well,
to
they teach you how to put on your stupid seatbelt, which everyone should know. They should give you that
Teach you how
little
to use the
announcement.
toilet.
Yeah, when you're on the
Safety,
ground.
part of the
Yeah.
safety brief.
Should you have
actually
the
in the
desire
card.
to befoul the
Yeah.
entire airplane by taking a shit in the bathroom, please use paper towels or
we're gonna
toilet
have to
paper.
demonstrate.
Yeah.
Drop cloth, like
Drop
paper.
cloth. Yeah. All right. Just,
Yeah, PSA right there.
there you go. Where can people find you, Alan?
Instagram's Untamed Strength. YouTube, if you just type in Untamed Strength, you'll find it. The YouTube / Thrall7. That was way before I had
Yeah.
Untamed Strength, and I can't change it now.
That's the worst.
I
You
know.
can change it, I heard, but the waiting list is like 100,000
Waiting
people.
list. Yeah, no thanks. I'm good.
Wow.
You just had an awesome competition here in Sacramento. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, at the Cal Expo Health and Fitness Expo deal. Yeah, women competed Saturday, men on Sunday. A lot of fun. I had a lot of help, so it was very, very smooth. I just had to be on a loud mic telling everyone what to do, but everyone, all the athletes were really responsive. It was smooth. It was good.
It looks brutal to run something like that. Bringing all that
Yeah.
fucking heavy equipment everywhere.
Yeah, moving strongman equipment back and forth. The guy from Beast Metals helped me out. He
Cool.
built a lot of stuff and dropped that off. But there's a lot of paperwork, and then just making sure everyone's on the same page. Like having volunteers who know what they're doing helps a lot.
Was there a lot of competitors new, or a lot of them fairly
There
new
were
to
there
it,
were
or-
a good amount who were new, but there were a lot of my favorite thing to see is the heavyweight men class was the biggest. So those are the funnest to watch because
Yeah.
they lift the most weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were about 60 competitors, so it was a pretty good
sick.
show.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it was cool.
Very cool. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Multiply your hustle, multiply your muscle, and may all your shits be tapered. I'm at Mark Smillybell.
Big shout out to all our sponsors, 8Man Strong Apparel at 8manstrong.com, bodybuilding.com for all your supplement needs, compexusa.com for cutting edge muscle stim machines, increase your bench press, how much you bench.net, Power, the only strength magazine available in digital and print, thepowermagazine.com. I am Salam Mike, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter.
I'm the Jim McD. Everywhere that I want you to find me on the social medias, follow us on Instagram. We are at Mark Bell's PowerCast. We're out.